Okay. It is 7 o'clock. On Thursday, March 9th, 2023. And I would like to call this meeting of the town board of the town of Northeast to order. And I'd like to start by asking you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we discuss, notice DIS in quotation marks, a business?
Is that Julie?
Yeah, that's Julie, so. But we're going to, okay, we have pressed record. Tilly, could you conduct a roll call, please?
Yes. Supervisor Cannon,
Here,
Councilwoman Morrison. Here. Councilman Fideli,
Here.
Councilman Midwood. Councilwoman Winkler.
Yes.
okay. I have distributed and we posted an agenda for the meeting. I'm going to make a small amendment to the agenda. We're going to add a list of board committees, which has been revised since the beginning of the year. And so with that addition, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? It's carried. Okay, the next item is public comment on agenda items only. If there's any public comment on agenda items only, now is the time.
You need a seat? We have a chair.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, I'd like to then move on and welcome everybody to this board meeting, our third regular board meeting of the year. It's sobering to think that we're already a quarter of the way through this year. It seems like we just started. There are a number of things which I wanted just to mention before we get started. In terms of what I've been up to in the last month. One was testifying in a hearing organized by the Connecticut hospitals entity on the proposed closing of both the maternity ward and the intensive care unit at Sharon Hospital. I took the opportunity to go over and visit Sharon Hospital and see, talk with some of the administrators over there and express my concern about the ICU. And I also testified in this hearing about that. There was mention made of that in the paper. I think it's a complicated situation. I know we care a lot about having a local hospital, and I think that's something which I mentioned in my comments. I felt is something we really need to keep a focus on. We'd like to have all the units that it's had available to us, but the most important thing is that it continue to exist and to exist there. One of the things that another thing, these are just some fairly random items. The burn ban will be going into effect in this county, and I think in the rest of the state on March 16th, and will extend until May 14th. And most people are familiar with that. It's time when vegetation from the wintertime can be very dry and catch fire easily. So outdoor burns are prohibited during that period. I've talked before about the speed sign on Winchell Mountain. This is turning into an amazing story, and not a great story about town government, because Meg knows, in particular, when we started to focus, thanks to you, on reducing the speed in Winchell Mountain. The state did approve, after several years of deliberation, a reduction in speed in Winchell Mountain from 55 to 45. And the county is aware of that. And I did get notice today that the county will get around to putting the sign up at some point this summer. So stay tuned, but that is in fact the legal speed limit on Winchell Mountain. The big item that we have on our agenda tonight is the contract for the purchase of a building to be a new town hall. And we will come to that in a minute. But I just wanted to say a few words about this building. Because having been attending board meetings in this building for 5 years and having worked in this building for 3 years, with many of my colleagues who've worked in this building for many, many years, it has so many drawbacks that I'm not going to go through them all, but it certainly is no longer an appropriate, efficient, effective building as a town hall. All you have to do is to look up that staircase, which is inside that door in the back of the room. And we don't even really encourage people to use that. It's really there as an emergency staircase. It is a scary staircase, but the building is groaning with files, was never intended to have the weight of the filing cabinets that it has. And so many of the offices are cramped, and really ineffective. So we will, we're going to take up this as one of the items on the agenda. But I just want to say, I have mixed feelings about leaving this building. Despite all those negatives, it has been a cozy, friendly place as a town hall, and we'll miss it. And we'll get to that. I would like to go on to department and committee reports. Bob, do you have a report from the highway department?
Things going well in the highway department, Connie Brock has been working on equipment, keeping us in stocked up. We're ready for the next storm coming in,
And we have something coming in this weekend?
possibly, like 6 p.m. Friday and 1 p.m. on Saturday, 3 to
Mhm.
6 inches.
But I'm guessing that our stockpile of sand and salt is pretty healthy.
Yeah, so we're in good shape, budget's in good shape.
Yeah, okay. Great, thank you. Catherine, do we have an assessor report?
Yeah, thank you. The 2 items. First is, of course, exemption deadline has just passed, and anybody who's been in the building the last few weeks knows it's been a very busy one. But we got through it. I usually like to give you an overview of what came in and where we stand on the exemption front, but there was just so many, I haven't gotten through them all yet, so that will be part of next month's report. The main thing I need to discuss now and to take action on, for you to take action on, is that we have are going to have a vacancy on our Board of Assessment Review. Our member John Crawford has decided to retire. He's submitted his resignation to us. So we'll need to fill his term, which he's in the middle of. So his term ends September 30th, 2025. So we'll be looking for someone to fill that term, and then hopefully hook them to stay on for another term. For a bar appointment, one must be, and these are in the statute, first knowledgeable of property values in the town, at least 18 years old, a U.S. citizen, and a resident of the town. Pretty simple, nothing too complicated, so I'm sure we could find someone. The key is, and it should be one of the requirements, someone with an open mind, because their job is really to listen, as if they're a judge in a court, listen to both sides of an argument and find a solution. So that's what we would ask, that you put out an opening advertisement at the opening as soon as possible. Grievance day is the end of May, but they usually do the training middle to end of April. So I would like to be able to have someone appointed by the next board meeting. so we can get them signed up for the training. And then another thing, March 1st deadline is called our taxable status date, and it's also our inventory date. So any inventory about the properties that we have in our, or have knowledge of, any building that has happened over the past year will be on in our records as of March 1st, and that's what I will be basing my assessments on. So if anybody wants to take a look at their role, and I encourage everyone to do so, please make an appointment with me, and that notice will be going out and it's posted on the board now. And the last is, speaking of assessing properties, I'd just like to give you a kind of an overview of my analysis over the last year of what's been happening with property values. As we talked last year, we saw some huge increases in property values, and we ended up doing, if you remember, a 12% across the board on residential values. Very, very steep. So our analysis this year, I was hoping, of course, last year that things would quiet down, settle down, and we have to a small extent, but we are still seeing pretty significant numbers. And so a few charts here that are put out by the state. Those are their own analysis. And this is what they provide to me so that we can have conversations and come to a decision on where our market is in this town. So for the residential sector, the state groups us, looks at the county-wide and then groups us into little sections. Of course, our town is pretty small, so there's never enough sales to really get enough information for statistical analysis. So they kind of group us with some other towns in our region that have similar qualities as our town. And they have put us at the trend of 11 for this year. So less than last year, but that is what they're projecting was our increase in property values on residential.
And the group of towns that we're lumped in with are sort of Pine Plains, Milan, Stanford.
Washington and Amelia,
Right.
upper corner.
Yeah.
And then likewise, they do an analysis of vacant lands. Again, same thing, they need enough sales to have a real statistical analysis. So we're actually grouped with several counties. They do it on a much larger basis. We're grouped with Putnam, Ulster, and Sullivan. And they have, this is their initial analysis, and they have pegged this at 12% increase on vacant lands. Subsequent analysis that I just received recently put it at 11. So we're getting better, but still at double digits is quite significant. And then finally, commercial also, we're grouped in the same kind of counties. And they have pegged us at 8%. So pretty much along all kinds of properties, we're still seeing significant increases. In my conversations with ORPS, and after reviewing their analysis and they're reviewing my analysis, I have convinced them that we're not quite at those double digits. And so I've gotten us to 8% across the board, which is good news. It's a little bit less than that. And that's what I tried to do last year as well. Originally, I pegged us at 14 and we ended up at 12. So I'm doing my best for that. And the other good thing is that if we're at 8% across all sectors, again, like I said last year, everyone goes up the same, taxes should remain the same, all other things being equal. So that's really where I was shooting, and I think we're gonna be there. We still have a few more conversations with the state, but I think I can get us there. So that should be what people should be expecting. Still, it's gonna be an increase. 8% is still a huge number. However, like I said before, it shouldn't cause huge increases or decreases in people's tax bills.
Right. Well, we will have the usual job of explaining that these increases do not translate directly into tax increases.
Exactly.
Yeah, we wish us luck.
Wish me luck.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Anybody have any questions?
I just wanted to ask, is there any way to have it broken down by property values of certain valuations, like going up those percentages? Like, are there homes over $1 million, or like within segments of the marketplace really going up that percentage?
Yes, yes, the state does do some analysis. They do by different ways, by building styles, by school districts, by sectors, when I have neighborhoods in the town, different segments, and by exactly that, I'm not sure what they call it, lower or higher quality homes. They meld all that information into one. If I do a deeper dive, and this is kind of what I had to do in order to get it down from 11, is to point out, oh, well, hey, this is moving differently, this is moving differently, and that's how kind of our conversations go
Mhm.
with the state.
Okay, thank you.
But you keep that increased value the same for every price point. You don't,
Unless I have enough information to really, parse it out and say, no, well, that's moving at 4, and that's moving at 10. It ends up that what we've seen so far, the last few years, it's been ending up, everybody's just really moving at incredible rates. In years past, yes, we've seen that. I've done different trending in different segments or different kinds of homes. But these last couple of years, it's been pretty much across the board. Sure,
Thank you.
thank you.
thank you.
Tilly, I know that you provided reports from the planning department, the zoning department, and the building department to the town board
And the town clerk and the tax collector.
and town clerk and tax collector. Thank you very much. The next is,
The ZRC too, the ZRC sent a report in to everybody. has
right,
as
well, I was gonna ask Edie
Okay.
if she wanted to comment on or deliver her report.
I'll deliver the report. I've been remiss. I keep telling you, we're moving forward. But now tonight, a little bit of detail. We are still focused on the commercial districts. There are 3 commercial districts in town. And last year practically, I guess, we primarily focused on the boulevard districts. There are currently 6. We're proposing to divide the boulevard into 2 segments: Boulevard East over by Connecticut, Boulevard West, Coastwood Village, and using Kelsey Brook as the dividing. At the request of the planning board, actually, of which we have 2 members. We are spending a lot of time on definitions because the devil's in the detail, the details of the devil, whatever that phrase is. And we're now working on bulk standards. Examples of bulk standards are setbacks from the road, number of parking spaces per a specific use, the maximum size and height of buildings. And we're getting there. And it will all be, it's way we're approaching it, it's tabular in form. To move the process forward, we've broken up into subcommittees. So we have had a subcommittee working on lighting standards, sign regulations, landscaping, and now, as of last meeting, design standards. Our consultant, Will Agresta, is working on parking regulations and procedures, the procedures section of the updated code. The town has retained Dave Everett of Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah to be the attorney to the zoning review committee. We meet twice a month, first and third Mondays, and our meetings are all open to the public. It is our goal to get a package to the town this summer on the commercial districts, just the commercial districts, which is to the north, what we're calling Irondale, the one parcel that is Harney T at the moment, and this Boulevard district. Once we get that package, as Warren knows, and we present it to the town will authorize the preparation of an environmental assessment form, and then move on to the public hearing process. Now, and the referral to other agencies, the Dutchess County Planning and any other relevant agencies. Now, the remaining sections of the code that need to be updated, just broad brush, are all the residential districts. Would not handle any of that. The land conservation district, that's what we call the wetlands and all that. And chapter 150 of our current code, which covers the land, the subdivision of land, which is a separate section that's very important from the planning board's point of view. And that's where we're at. I also want to thank the board members who have been so actively involved in our process. It's wonderful to actually have you attending meetings and exchanging ideas. So much appreciated. We're making progress. Any
Thank you,
questions?
thank you, E, and, you know, on behalf of the board, again, thank you. This has been an extraordinary effort,
Yes,
which
it
is extended over, I don't know the exact number, it's certainly in the neighborhood of 2 years
Yes.
at this point, with meetings certainly for the last year or more, twice a month.
Yeah.
It's an amazing effort. When you start to look at the details of the rules and regulations of a municipality, it is daunting. You think, well, they just exist. They don't just exist, they're created. And they're important, and this is a huge, valuable service. One of the things that's interesting to me is how little commercial area this town has. It has the boulevard to the Connecticut border. It has a little bit of Route 22 going up, and it has RNET. And it's very unusual for a town to have such a small amount of commercial space. Anyway, thank you. The next item is the approval of the contract for the purchase of Jehovah's Witnesses property. This is what I was referring to earlier. When we started looking at finding a replacement for this wonderful old building, the thought that I had, and which number of others of us had, was how wonderful it would be to be able to create a municipal building in the village, and to actually have it be a municipal building shared between the village and the town. It's still a wonderful idea, but it's a very expensive idea. And really beyond the reach at the moment of the town, particularly with our current construction on the highway garage. So the alternative is to look for spaces for buildings which could become a town hall. And as I think everyone can figure out, there are very few buildings in this town which automatically would lend themselves to being a town hall. However, the former building of the Jehovah's Witnesses congregation did come on the market, and it was brought to my attention. I went and took a look at it, and I was stunned by how appropriate, how amazingly appropriate it would be for a town hall. It is a very open space. It is a substantial open space. I think it has, in its current configuration, seating for 200. It is in very good shape. It was built in 1990. One of the amazing things about the way that the Jehovah's Witnesses build their buildings is that they are done sort of in the barn raising style, where a lot of materials are brought to the site, and then 100 or more people assemble, and the building went up in one day. It's hard to believe, but I've seen the pictures of it. It was built in one day. Anyway, we have moved forward with the congregation. They listed the property originally for $499,000. They reduced it to $479,000, and we discussed it further with them, and they came down, and we eventually have agreed on a price of $430,000 for the building. The building will need some modifications to make it appropriate for a town hall. We're going to use movable partitions to create offices in the big meeting room. And that will mean that we do not require to build structural walls. We are hoping to do this as quickly as we can. We've been blessed to have had the help of Jeannie Van Eco, a local architect who many of you know, and who's been helping us to think through how we can easily and economically turn the building into a town hall. With that, Warren, I know you've prepared a resolution authorizing the town to enter into a contract with, it's actually the Rhinebeck Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses. You want to maybe just describe the process? I know that for a town to buy property is different from a regular homeowner.
Well, not that much different. We do have a contract which I have negotiated with your help, town board's help, with the sellers. We've reached an accord on the terms of the contract, so that's ready to be executed. The property would be located in the town's R3 district, which as many or most of our districts don't permit a town hall or another municipal building. We went through this when we did the highway garage. So we have put in the contract, and it's acceptable to the seller, a condition that the town has to conduct what's known as a Monroe balancing test under a Court of Appeals case entitled the County of Monroe versus, I think that's all it says, the County of Monroe. We would have to determine that in spite of the fact that it's not a permitted use in the R3 district, that the balancing of the equities or the factors which we will present at the time we do that balancing test militate in favor of overriding the town zoning and permitting the town hall at this location in the R3 district. So the first thing we need to do is to move this forward is to do our environmental review, and I've prepared a short form environmental assessment form. This is known as an unlisted action under seeker. It's not a type 1 action, so it doesn't require what we call a long form. I filled it out with information about the project, which is essentially the purchase and renovation of this building for use as a town hall. And I just need to go over with you the questions that are asked in the part 2 of the environmental assessment form. And I've taken the liberty of filling it out subject to your approval. The first question that we have to resolve is, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? It actually should have been yes. I don't know why she checked no. I had my secretary do this because it's not permitted in our zoning district. But it's well, let's keep that as a small impact. It's a small impact. It's not a large impact because we're going to override the zoning after we do the balancing test to determine that it's fair and reasonable in the town's best interest to permit the town hall to be located in the R3 district. So I've answered that no, so that was correct. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of the land? Not really. It'll be a different type of intensity, but not a major change in magnitude of the intensity of the use from a church. The third question is, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? I've answered that no, because we're not making any substantial modifications to the outside of the building, and the use of the building as a town hall will not adversely impact the character of the town. That's substantially different from the Jehovah's Witness Church. The fourth question is, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No, the property is not located in or adjacent to a critical environmental area. The fifth question is, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic?
City Council, join right now, Roger.
We got mute people here.
Oop, that-
I don't know what that was.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I don't know where that was. Okay, I think we're all right.
Okay. Fifth question is, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking or walkway? There will be a different type of use for the building, different from the current use. But even when the town hall is operating at full capacity, it doesn't generate that much traffic. There'll be periodic meetings in the buildings. Not dissimilar to
Right,
the
it's basically
periodic congregation
church with
of
that
the
as
church.
well.
So I answered that, no. 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy? And it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? The answer to that is no. The next is, will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? No. Or public or private wastewater treatment facilities? No. I believe we can use the existing infrastructure that's there in the building. If we have to make modifications to it in some way to accommodate the new use, that's not going to be a problem. 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No. We're not taking a historic building and converting it to a town hall. It's quite a modern building. 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora and fauna? No, the property is substantially built out and improved and disturbed already by the current use and building on the property, so that we're not going to be affecting any of those resources. 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No. 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources and human health? Certainly not. So those are the questions in the short form. And if it's acceptable to the board, I check the box indicating that the town board has determined, based upon the information and analysis above, and any supporting documentation for the proposed action, that will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, such that as a draft environmental impact statement would need to be prepared. If that's acceptable to you, if we could have just a vote on that now. I've also incorporated that in the resolution. We can do a roll call.
Yeah, and I would just like to say that our plans for the building or for the site do not envisage any changes outside of the building. So that I feel very comfortable with all of those answers to those, and the usage. As many people know, there are times when there's only 1 or 2 people working at town hall on a particular day, so traffic will not be an issue.
It's pretty much an ideal location for
Yeah,
adaptive reuse of a building for municipal purposes. So if we could have a vote on that.
so this is do you want to just state what the vote is on?
The vote is that we're adopting a resolution that we've determined, a determination that we've determined that the action, which is the purchase and renovation of the building for town hall purposes, will not result in any adverse environmental impacts, and that a draft environmental impact statement will not have to be prepared.
So moved.
You're making the motion.
Warren just stated the motion. Basically,
That's it.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm making the motion to approve that.
Okay,
Second. Am I supposed to say it?
Yeah, and then we need a roll call.
okay. Supervisor Cannon,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison. Aye. Councilman Fidele,
Aye.
Councilwoman Winkler.
And I sent this on to you, so when you get a chance, you should sign the negative declaration and file it with the other papers that we have on file for this. Next, we have the resolution itself. Did you want to read this?
I think given the
Significance.
significance of this, it would be.
Could I ask the clerk, would you mind?
Yeah.
Sure, sure. Okay, resolution authorizing the purchase of the property located at 5603 Route 22, Town of Northeast, from the Rhinebeck Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, New York. Whereas the Northeast Town Board has determined that the existing town hall is obsolete in many respects, including the lack of handicap access to the second floor, and that it is necessary for the town to construct a new town hall or to acquire property with an existing structure which may be retrofitted for use as a town hall. And whereas the town board has determined that the parcel of property located at 5603 Route 22 in the town of Northeast, owned by the Rhinebeck Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, consisting of approximately 3.01 acres and identified as tax map number 717000633229, is suitable for the new town hall. And whereas Jehovah's Witnesses has agreed to sell the subject property to the town for a purchase price of $430,000, which the town board has determined is a fair and reasonable price for the property. And whereas the town board has preliminarily estimated the cost of renovating the said property at $150,000. And whereas the attorney to the town has negotiated a real estate contract for the purchase of said property from the Jehovah's Witnesses and has presented a copy of that contract to the town board for its review and approval. And whereas the town board has determined that the proposed contract is acceptable in form and content. And whereas the town board has determined that the cost of purchasing and retrofitting for town hall use will be financed from surplus funds, and therefore this purchase is not subject to a permissive referendum pursuant to the provisions of town law, section 220 of the town law. And whereas the town board has determined that this is an unlisted action under seeker, and that the town is the only involved agency in this acquisition process, has reviewed a short form environmental assessment form and has determined that the acquisition of this property will not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and that an environmental impact statement shall not be required. And whereas, as the subject property is located within the town's R3 zoning district in which the town hall is not a permitted use, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor of the town of Northeast to enter into a contract for the purchase of the said property from the Jehovah's Witnesses for a price of $430,000 under the terms and conditions as set forth in the proposed contract, contingent upon availability of satisfactory funding, the conduct of a Monroe balance test pursuant to the requirements of matter of County of Monroe, 72 New York 2nd 338, public hearing on April 13th, 2023 at 7:10 p.m. And determination by the town board that the use of the property for a town hall purchase shall not be subject to the provisions of the town zoning code and all other contingencies deemed necessary by the attorney to the town.
So just a couple of things. The contract is as indicated in the resolution. We have made an internal determination that we're going to be using what's known as surplus funds, which would be a combination of the unexpended fund balance, portion of the unexpended fund balance, and ARPA funding, which would be considered surplus funds. We don't know how we're going to balance that, what we're going to take, but if those are going to be the source of funds for acquisition, it's not subject to any permissive referendum under section 220 of the town law. The contract itself is contingent on Jehovah's Witnesses being able to secure approval for the sale. Any church in the state of New York, before they sell property, their property must obtain the approval of the Supreme Court in which the property is located, and that would be Dutchess County. And also, as part of that process, the Attorney General would have to approve the sale. I've been through this process before, and I've discussed this with the attorney for the church, and we do not anticipate that there will be any problem in getting that approval, but it will take some time. The contract would be subject to that. I'm anticipating that the town will make a favorable determination on the Monroe balancing test, but we are going to have a public hearing. So the public could be heard on this matter before you make that decision. We went through a similar process with with our highway garage. And determined that to override the zoning in that case. The contract is not going to contain a permissive referendum. I'm sorry, the resolution will not contain a permissive referendum provision, nor will that be in the contract of sale. But it is subject to the Monroe balancing the test determination. Hopefully that will take care of that next month. I have the contract and I think we have a couple of matters to tidy up after the meeting and I'll have you sign it.
The contract signing then can take place after this meeting, I presume.
Yes. Yes. And from here on, the procedures are pretty standard in terms of a real estate contract. I'll be ordering a title search to make sure that we're getting clean title. Once we have that, and we should get the approval of the Supreme Court and the Attorney General. We'll go to closing and the property will be yours. Congratulations.
We can put our new sign up too.
Absolutely. Anyway, thank you for that, Warren. I do think that this is a great opportunity for the town to acquire a property which is suitable for a town hall at a very, very favorable price. Having looked up what the cost of new construction of a government office building would be, the estimates for that currently are in the range of $428 to $800 per square foot. We're getting this for under 100.
Yeah,
So
I'm going through that with another municipality and can tell you the costs are significantly higher. We're fortunate that it's a newer building here. And it doesn't require that much retrofitting, and we don't have asbestos, which is usually the most significant cost when you're retrofitting these buildings. We do have to vote on the resolution.
Yeah, no, this was just my preamble. But with that, I would like to make a motion to approve the resolution. And obviously, we will then want to have a roll call vote on this.
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Cannon,
Aye.
Councilman Fideli,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison,
Aye.
Councilwoman Winkler.
Aye.
The resolution carries 4-0.
Okay. That takes care of that.
It does.
For now. For now. All right, thank you very much, Warren, for that. The next item is something completely different. One of the things which I found about in this role is that there are so many different aspects to town government that you have, many people just have no idea. And one of them, which I was eager to learn a little bit more about, is the role of agriculture assessments. We have a lot of land in the town, just sort of conversely, we don't have a lot of commercial land, but we do have a lot of open space and a lot of land. And certainly a good portion of it is in agricultural use. So I thought it would be interesting to spend a few minutes learning a little bit for the board and myself, for us all to learn a little bit about the role of agriculture assessments in not only in the town, but in the county. And to that end, I've invited Jennifer Fimble from the Cornell Cooperative Extension to join us. And Jennifer, thank you so much for
You're very
coming out.
welcome.
And
No, I mean, I'll stand.
Yeah,
Everybody that's here can hear as well.
yeah. Anyway, I did send you,
Yes, you have
A
a
little-
little, today, you think I
Yeah.
had those numbers at my fingertips?
oh, yes, I knew you did.
I did not, but I got
But-
it from the real property tax.
Also, in a way, we want to start by, what is the whole purpose of agriculture assessments?
Yeah.
And so on.
So, first of all, I've been with Cooperative Extension in Dutchess County for 37 years. So I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I worked under Dave Teeter, so many of you probably remember Dave Teeter. So yeah, I've been here, I live in Amenia. I have 4 dogs. Yeah, so I don't know if you all understand how diverse agriculture here is in Dutchess County. We've got a little bit of everything. I know back in the 1800s, we had hops, then they went out of fashion for a while. We've got more hops again. We've got everything from apples to even, I think zucchini, obviously. But we've got a little bit of everything. But to give you an idea of how we rank in the state. So we're number 1 for not only the number of horses, but the value of those horses in New York State. We're also number 1 in the number of goats in New York State, Dutchess County. We're 12th in Christmas trees by sales value. And we have 50+ farm stores and farm stands. I think that really speaks to agriculture and the diversity that's here. During COVID, they were a godsend to have. And so it's, you're lucky to have one here. So you've got McEnroe's. Amenia does not have one. And I believe Dover does, yeah, they have one. I think there's 2 towns in Dutchess County that don't have a farm store. We have a list of those on our website, so ccedutchess.org. Just so you know that it's there. So I was asked, what are ag assessments in ag districts? So we are actually working on the 8-year review of ag districts in Dutchess County. It's our favorite time, I'm sure. I appreciate it. It's a lot of work. It'll be about 25% of my job this year. So ag districts, everybody says, oh, what's the difference with it? Ag districts are an actual geographic location which consists predominantly of viable agricultural land. The law was enacted in 1971. It was adopted here in 1973 in Dutchess County to help keep farmland in agricultural production. A county legislative body must approve and forward the petition to the Commissioner of Agriculture for formal review and designation. What we've done over the years, we've come down to, besides the 8-year review, each and every year, April 15th to May 14th is the only 30-day period of time that someone can apply to be included into the agricultural district. Okay, there's no financial benefit to being in an agricultural district. Okay, so that's a really important piece to remember. So the purpose is to encourage the continued use of farmland for ag production. All right, ag districts may include land that is actively farmed, idle, forested, as well as has a residence on it, and commercial properties that are part of a larger agricultural enterprise. Soil type, and there's over 600 types of soil in New York State. Okay, so we need to think about that. Soil type determines the actual value of the land, and it's done by grouping. It's not each individual, but each grouping of soil. So you have prime farmland, farmland of statewide importance, muck soils, which are over in Orange County, those kinds of things. Those are the, that's how it's kind of grouped. And so that's a really important piece that's done by the state, and that's given to the assessors and to the soil and water office so that they can help determine what those discounts on agricultural land will be. So it's not deemed by the assessor, it's deemed by the state. So I'm giving you kind of a, all right, so ag value assessment. So this is what everybody calls the ag exemption. So the farmers are not exempt from those taxes, they still have to pay taxes. It's limited to land used in agricultural production. And it's defined, this is right from the state, defined to include cropland, pasture, orchards, vineyards, sugar bush, maple syrup, support land. Okay, so it's another piece that's very important to realize. And crop acreage, either set aside or retired under the federal supply management or soil conservation programs. So those are all easily included. Another piece of all this is the right to farm law. So New York State has a right to farm law
Dutchess County actually has a right to farm law. Some towns can also adopt their own right to farm law. It's very similar. It just shows that you're very supportive of agriculture. This law applies only to property located in a state certified agricultural district and to farm operations that conform with generally accepted and sound agricultural practices as defined in the law, and they also have to receive ag value assessment. So those two things coupled together are what gives the property at least the possibility of the right to farm law protections. Doesn't mean they're going to be guaranteed it, but at least that's where someone who's in an ag district is never going to, and doesn't do an actual farming, says, oh, I want to have chickens, but the zoning says you can't have chickens. They're not protected under the right to farm law. That is not a protection for them. It's only for commercial entities. And so there is a dollar value assigned. So if you have 7 acres, if you're farming 7 acres or more, you have to gross $10,000 in sales, agricultural sales from the property. All right, and there's a whole bunch of caveats. I want to say the first 2/3 of the ag district law is all the revisions that have been made since 1971. But
it is gross income.
it is gross income, yes.
Right.
If you have less than 7 acres that you're farming, so this is where greenhouses come in, you have to gross $50,000 or more each and every year. Right, in a drought year, obviously, that's when I get called, there's a form, New York State has a form for that. I'll go out, go inspect the property, and I've done it for a couple of farms that needed, drought help. With the COVID, they had a form for that as well, had to go out and talk with them, and I had to sign off on that. So I was also asked about the role and where ag districts are in Dutchess County. This is not all paperwork that I'm giving you. I'm going to give it to you, but some of it in the notes. So these are the these are the properties in ag districts in Dutchess County, the green. Okay.
So just looking at it from a distance, you could say that the northeast corner of the county.
Yes, it's
Yes.
very heavily, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
So what you'll notice is that there are a lot of villages and cities that are not included in ag districts. Some of some of Millbrook actually is in an ag district. But for the most part, most villages and urban cities are not in an ag district. There are no, there's no soil map there. And so there's no benefit to someone doing a lease program or growing there from that discount. Right, we are working on something for the county now to hopefully amend some of that so we can get some urban agriculture, at least in our cities. So here in Dutchess County, we have 2 cities. So we have 4 ag districts right now. With this new 8-year review, I believe that we are going to hopefully go to 1, which make life a lot easier for a lot of people. But the ag districts really just bisect the county. So that's all there is. Originally, I believe there were 20 ag districts in Dutchess County, so it's moved on. We are unique in that we allow pretty much anybody within the parameters to enroll in an ag district, where in other parts of the state, they have an actual geographic, this is the only place you can enroll for agriculture. But those are more predominantly urban areas. So that's where we are here in Dutchess County. So of our 528,000 acres in ag districts, it's 198,300 acres, rounding it off. Right, that's 4,492 parcels. Okay. Those receiving ag value assessment, and they don't have to be in an ag district to get ag value assessment. Okay, so
Right.
there's a piece there that makes it very, very balanced. Get those getting ag value assessment, 121,621 acres or 2,000 parcels are getting ag value assessment.
out of the 500 and some thousand total acres.
Yes,
Yeah,
yep. So it's not, it's about 1/5 of the county.
right.
So why are ag districts so important to a town? So I know townspeople get really upset and say, well, those farmers are getting all their tax rates. All right. If you don't have agriculture, your town is going to have to raise taxes. All right, so the average, and it's different for every town. There aren't many cost of community services done. There hasn't been one done in a while. The American Farmland Trust did one several years ago. I just did a program for agritourism for the state. And so we came up, so we kind of did about, we did raise it a little bit, but it's not much. So a residence typically uses, for every dollar that they pay in taxes, they use $1.16 in services. Okay, so they're getting more than what they pay. Agriculture, they, out of every dollar that they pay, they only use 37 cents of your community services. And commercial land, commercial properties, only 30 cents. So between commercial land and agriculture, they're not using the same amount of cost of community services that your residents do. And so when people get really upset, I think that's a really important thing for people to remember, is that without those properties, you really are going to have to raise taxes by quite a bit to make everything balance, just to make the books balance. So that's, you know, that's a factor that a lot of people don't understand. We did, so fire tax is a special use tax. And actually your fire commissioners could actually make a recommendation to do that, their tax at ag value versus full value to farms that are getting ag value assessment. We did a couple of years, it's probably been 5 years now. When Eric Axelson was at Real Property Tax, he actually did the town of Beekman for me. And because they only have one fire district, you have several here, but it was very easy to do Beekman. For the average home at that time, we're not all that now, but of $250,000, it would raise their taxes all of, I think it was $3, less than $5. Less than $5 for them to let farms have that break in the fire tax. Not giving it away, it's just giving them a break. So it does behoove you to have a really, and you've got a great strong plan for agriculture. Thanks to Edie, she did a great job with that. What I have here that I'm going to leave with you. So on our website, we do community profiles for every town in Dutchess County. So you've got one for the town of Northeast. I brought you a hard copy of it. So this is from, even though it says 2021, our gentleman who does these and updates them every single year. This is actually from 2022. I don't know if he's finished updating, I think he's going to change the date. But the number of farm parcels is 371. The average size of an ag parcel is 53 acres. The land and farms, 19,521 acres. And the total land in Northeast is 27,929 acres. So the percentage of the town in farms is 70%. So we did we tried to model it a little bit after the USDA sheets of paper that show what ag looks like. So there's a map with the 4 districts, right? The map where the town of Northeast is located. I mean, it's pretty, but it was nice for him to do that. A little bit about the town, if there was something special, you adopted your master plan, that's in there. It says 1994, that probably has to be updated. But we also have the types of agriculture that you have here that we know of. Okay, which is actually going to be more specific than USDA, because not everybody, even though they're supposed to fill out the USDA census for agriculture, they don't. But for this, because of the ag district, the ag district program, they do. So we get a pretty good feeling about what's here. And then this is their capital investments. So not all of them are going to be local, but a lot of it will be local as well. So it gives you kind of an idea of where they're spending their money and, you know, how much they're spending. So most of yours is considered production agriculture, which is hay, corn, field crops, and other grains and row crops. You've got a little bit of specialty crops, which are like flowers, Christmas trees, sugar bush, those kinds of things. Obviously, you've got dairy, some beef and livestock, horses. There's a sliver that's called buffer land, vacant or residential or open space parcels that border farm property. And then other, and those are people that didn't designate what they were going to do. So I'm going to leave that here with all of you to have, but it is on our website for every single town. And I think that, I hope that answers everybody's question. These are also, I'm the county ag navigator, so I don't want, I guess I work with Cooperative Extension. Under that role, so under that umbrella, we have a grant through the county that's when we did our update to the ag plan for the entire county. All right, so we did an update to it. it was agreed that they wanted someone who's going to help coordinate and work with local officials, municipal officials, elected officials, state and federal as well. On matters pertaining to agriculture. And so Cornell Cooperative Extension received that grant and has since 2016. And so I'm your county ag navigator. So I get to do that too, which is fun. And that's, for me, it's something very different. I get to work with a lot of people that I never would have worked with before. And I find it fascinating. I've learned tons. Give you an idea, this is the Dutchess County Census from 2017. They're in the process of doing the next one. All right. So, but it tells you just, the commodity. The number of farms decreased by 9% since 2012 in Dutchess County. Says we have 620, we have more than that, because
Does that decrease the number of farms or the amount of acreage that's?
percent change in farms.
Mhm.
They do they have one for land? No. No, but they do list them farms by value of sales. So USDA, so I'm gonna leave all that.
Yeah.
You should get all that. So some, in the eyes of USDA, if you sell at least $1,000 worth of product, you're considered a farm, but not for land use or anything like that. In New York State, if you sell $1,000 worth, you're considered of agricultural product, you're supposed to be considered a farm, but not in the scheme of ag districts and ag value assessment. So a lot of our 4-H kids are actually legally farmers when they sell their animals, so. I'm open to any
Yeah.
questions. I know that you wanted, Catherine to.
Well, yeah, I think you actually got some of the numbers in because I was interested to know in the town of Northeast, but I think those were.
Well,
in
it's
that-
close. I mean, she's gonna have the exact numbers. Those are gonna be, but I think that.
Yeah, well, I pulled up just for the town, and it's very interesting, I was just hearing, those numbers for the county. Our parcels, that we have in ag are about 210. Out of our 1,900 parcels in our town. And I believe you quoted 371 in the whole county.
No, that was town Northeast. That's what we had as town, because you have some farmers that may be done reporting doubly,
Not farmers, but.
parcels,
Yeah.
parcels. You may have a landowner that's reported and a farmer who's reported the same thing.
I see.
So it does, so it's not, that's why, so no, 371 farm parcels. That are total, but that's, again, that's the imperfections of trying to coordinate, which is very different than what you get the
Right.
actual numbers.
Right.
We get landowner
Yeah.
information and the farmer information. So please.
So Catherine, just as you've looked at parcels which have ag assessments on them, and we've been trying not to call them exemptions, but to call
Yes.
them assessments.
Ag value assessment.
Catherine has trained me to use the right words. Have you seen a significant decline in the number of parcels or a significant increase or roughly over the past, let's say, 10 years in the town?
I didn't go back 10, well, I've been here long enough, so I should speak to that. In my memory, without the hard facts, we've always been hovering around 200 parcel range.
Mhm.
I could say that we've seen farms close down, like farmer-owned properties. And there's a lot more rental properties. So the farmer either shuts down or he's, gone smaller, and he's rented out his property to another farmer. Or new owners come in and they're not gonna, buy up a farm, but they don't wanna run a farm, they rent it to another farm. So we've seen a lot more of that. So that would be where I saw the decrease in farmer-owned farms to rental farms. But the number of parcels, I would say, hovered
Yeah,
around the 200 farm.
They really have pretty consistently, since we've been doing this since 2016. Nobody else in the state does this for their county, which is, so it makes us really unique. And we're really very fortunate to have some really cool people on staff. So a word to, where people get really upset, I think, are when they hear that, oh, that guy just, he's got tons of money and he's getting the ag, he's getting the ag exemption and he's not, So if a landowner comes in and it's usually a free lease to a farmer, so they lease their land to a farmer, then they do get the ag value assessment based on that farmer's gross sales. Okay, so they do still have to apply for everything else. But they're not getting scot-free either. I mean, they have, they've got to have somebody else on their property and everything else, and that's not, if you think about it, would you want someone coming in whenever they wanted to onto your property? But the farmers aren't paying to use that land, and that's what's enabling them to continue to farm in this area. About. One of these says what is the exact percentage, it's 30% or better of our land that's being used for farming is rented by farmers. So that's, Coons Brothers, for an example, in Amenia, they only own about 200 acres. And they farm several hundred of acres. So, it's really important, and that's how they're able to sustain. So I think that that's a really important piece to remember when you see, and with new agriculture and new things coming in. It's hard for some people to understand that, some of those things are really still agriculture. So, who would have thought that maple syrup is actually agriculture? They would have thought it was a forestry program. It's not, it's considered agriculture. So all the things that they're doing associated with that are agriculture.
So two more questions that I have. One is cannabis considered a farm product?
It is, and I can't even talk about it because we're federally funded. We have some federal funding. And so we're not allowed. And I can't, if someone calls me and tells me that, how do I do soil sampling? I can't, if they tell me what they're gonna be growing and it's cannabis, I can't even help them with doing the soil test.
Who knew?
So, it's because we get federal
Yeah.
funding. So, but yes, yes, it is.
And the other question that I have is, have you seen a reduction in the amount of dairy?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Mhm.
Yes. So when Dave Keeter was here, he said in the early 70s, there were over, it was like 274 dairy farms. Right now we have, I think, 21, and it kind of shifts, 19, then 22. So it's shifting. There's a couple of new smaller dairies coming in, some that are doing raw milk. And they're doing their raw milk sales, they're doing cheese. So, and they're being, but it's very boutique. It really is. There's a couple of larger ones, Chase Home Farm. So she does raw milk, but she also does organic milk. And she also does a farm store. And so she's got some beef products and some pork products there as well, I think chicken. Plus the associated, because whatever excess milk she has, she sells to her brother Rory, who makes the Chase Home Farm cheese.
Mhm.
So it's a nice deal. But yeah, so we do, so yes. The decrease in dairy, the uptick in the equine industry, increase in the hay industry, I think is gone. A, you don't have to till the land as often, but B, it's because they're getting a premium dollar for that hay, for good quality hay.
Yeah, that statistic about equine being number one in the state.
Yep.
is
And that fluctuates, so it depends on the time of year that they actually do a survey. If they do it in August when Saratoga's running,
I was
they
gonna,
count by full stalls. That's how they count them. So yeah, but we've always been either 1, 2, or 3. So
Mhm.
Erie County depends on how many people they get out to go out and count. And then so it's Saratoga and Dutchess and Erie County actually have the most horses in New York State.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much.
Scott's got a question.
Yes,
Okay, we generally keep comments to the end, but Scott,
I think he had a question.
okay,
Oh, Jennifer, what is the breakdown of the funding for Cornell?
so I can't tell you the percentages, but it's a very small percentage of federally funded.
Is that USDA?
Yes, yeah, we're under that umbrella. Another small piece is called the New York State 224, local 224 funds. So that's from the state, really small amount, and that's actually based on what you got as an appropriation from the county 2 years ago. So this goes back, so if you got a cut from the county funding, 2 years later, you'd get another cut from the state. And then the rest of it is, most of our funding is actually grants. We are very unlike any other cooperative extension in New York State. Most of our funding does come from grants, very small portion of it comes from an appropriation. So part of agriculture, the ag department is funded by a county appropriation, some of the environment program and some of the 4-H youth development program. But and then the rest, the family and consumer sciences do what's called the APG grant through the county. We also have the Ag Navigator program, so that's a grant through the county. I've been fortunate. I've been, when we started getting this different way of doing funding cooperative extension, that was in 2011. And my job actually was cut 40%. back in 2011. So I'm very fortunate. I'm, that's still here, still doing this work
Yeah.
for 37 years. So yeah, so it's different breakdowns. Our environment and energy program is doing a lot of regional programs now, so they're getting these some very large grants from NYSERDA to do some of that. So it's different. It is very different than how it used to be.
I have a question, for the longer range, do you think that there's gonna be an increase in the amount of vegetables grown in the east? When Los Angeles, the California loses their water?
It's, but we're also, we run into the drought situation in the summertime. So in the last 7 years, I think we've had 4 years that were actually drought. So it makes it really difficult. So you're gonna be able to get water to then bring to those plants, to bring to vegetables. So hopefully, we've got a lot of really great brands out there that really think outside the box to do things. To get food to people, so I'm hopeful. But it's hard to farm in New York State. It's really difficult.
Well. So, yeah,
I've asked this question numerous times before and nobody's given me a good answer. What is New York State's rationale for counting horses as agriculture? As far as I know, nobody milks them, or at least very few people milk them, and nobody eats them, at least very few people eat them. So why are they agriculture?
They're a really important part of the whole infrastructure of agriculture. Who's buying the hay? Who's buying the shavings? Who's the veterinary services, the fencing, the barns construction, the land ownership, those kinds of things make it part of agriculture. The racing industry is also a part of that, the breeding. So it was always, originally it was always the breeding end of it. So it had to do with breeding animals. Okay, so we don't eat a dairy cow, we eat her product. We don't eat a beef brood cow, we eat her product, right? A calf. With horses, no, we don't eat them. We used to use them for, for labor, right? I mean, that was, but horses were included, they weren't included, the horse boarding industry was brought in, I think in I want to say the early 90s. Because it wasn't considered part of the ag value assessment until then. And now riding academies are, and along with it was always with the sale of breeding horses. So I can't speak for New York State though. But it is an important asset to local agriculture. Ask any of the guys that grow hay.
okay, I think with that, Jennifer, thank you very much for what you do and for making the trek from Armenia all the way up here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really good information.
Okay, the next item is discussion of town of Northeast bicycling and walking master plan. We have looked at this. We're going to continue to look at this because it's not due to be submitted for a while. And we have invited the community to make comments on the Climate Smart website about the master plan, and we will continue to invite comments on it. I have a couple of things as I've gone through it that we'll be looking at, and some of these I hope will be changing. One is it refers to a White House parking structure. There's not going to be any parking on White House Road. Unfortunately, it probably would have been the better place for a parking lot on the rail trail. But that is not, it's going to be with some luck, and it's taken a long time. It's like the speed signs on Winchell Mountain. The parking lot on Red Pond Road, which we hope we will be able to, the Rail Trail Association will be able to secure that parcel to create a parking lot on that piece of land. But there certainly is not going to be one in the foreseeable future on White House Crossing. I also have a real concern about any proposed crossing for kids across Route 22 to get to Weaver School. It's a 55 mile an hour zone there, even with, yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome, thank you.
Even with, crossing signs, we've seen what they've had to do just to get cars not to pass school buses. Anyway, I have a concern about that. And I have a concern about Route 22 being a suitable bicycling road. We see not only cars, trucks going very, very fast up and down Route 22, but a lot of them are extra wides or things which have to have cars out in the front of them, moving people over them. And those things really reach way over the shoulder. It's just, to me, it's not an appropriate place for the town to be recommending as a place to bicycle. We have the rail trail. And so many other nice, lovely town roads on both sides, both on the up on Route 83 and down here. Also, I know there are a number of references to bike lanes on the roads, and that's something that certainly some of them could be appropriate. Some other roads are so narrow that if you put a bike lane on it, you really, the cars are going to be in the bike lane. So I think we need to be sensible and use common sense as we look at this. I want to say, having said all that, that I really like the spirit and the goal of this, which is to talk about the importance of bicycling and walking. It's healthy for us, and this is a part of the world where that can happen very easily and very wonderfully. So we'll continue to look at this master plan. It is available for people to look at on the Climate Smart website. And we're going to invite people to comment there and to leave their comments there. Do any members of the board have any further comments on it? Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. In going through it, I definitely would love to see some amendments. I think there's so many things that are already happening and also low hanging fruit. I'm such a supporter of, having signalized crosswalks that work, because even in our village, they don't work at many times, which is almost more dangerous because you're waiting for that. And
No, you think because it's there that it's safe.
right,
that
and
could
you
just
think,
sort of-
and all of a sudden someone pops out and
Yeah.
you're only going 10 miles an hour. But I also think the importance of sidewalks being maintained and extended, especially, through the village, which isn't us necessarily, but and then later with our zoning changes with Southwood Boulevard, of course, and the opportunities later for cycling, but going up Irondale. And also now that so many people are using the park, which is so wonderful. The sidewalk does end, discontinues, then it starts up, and we do have so many families walking up 22 north with strollers and all their families, so it's a fact. And most people do walk, so I think this is the low hanging fruit to make it safer for our community. I think that connection between the rail trail and more on-off spots is super important. And I noticed that a lot of people are creating their own already, like by Three Brothers Pizza, people have created one. And later it'll be a great opportunity, maybe by the park, maybe there's opportunities somewhere over by Floods or Lightning Rod or something there, and because Belkey is up the road too. But in speaking to a lot of bikers, they do go up onto the rail trail, and they walk or down to 22 or over, and then they ride up to Belkey and get on the rail trail there. So I do think, with those things, I do think there's some very broad overstatements, like there's 300 employees at Harney and there's opportunity to have them all
For
do
them
it.
all to be on bicycles.
Yeah, and even looking up Netherlands, 28% of the people bike. So, I just think those kind of very overarching statements should sort of be out.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm really excited about, increasing walkability for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, I think it's an important component of the Climate Smart work that we've done And I just want to make sure that it's one that is, reflects the reality of where we are. And I should add and make mention of the fact that, and this is related, that there is going to be there's another program which the town board did look at, I think a year or two ago, and approved, which is the Complete Streets program. The village did this, the town has looked at it. There's going to be a webinar on Complete Streets, a Zoom webinar on the 15th of March. And I will get information on that to members of the board and to members of the planning board. I think it could be very interesting, and we'll encourage people to look at it. I'm glad you mentioned Bilkie. Bilkie Road is a was that this?
Oh, no, they all seem to be
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah. Anyway. Bilkie is a dangerous intersection on the rail trail. And I am aware of people who've been going up and down the rail trail who simply just fly across Bilkie. Bilkie is now a major road. Didn't mean to be a major road, but it's become because of GPS has put it in as a way for cars coming down 22 who want to go to Connecticut. Now our GPS takes them on Bilkie. So that's
And they're
another,
avoiding Main Street.
yeah.
Mhm.
Lana, anything else that we haven't covered?
You covered
Yeah,
it.
or no?
I had a little sorry here, but you got it.
Okay. We've distributed a copy of the rules of procedure for town board meetings. This is something that is normally part of our reorg meeting in January. And it's been circulated, and it is essentially, it's been edited lightly. But I would like to ask for a motion to approve the rules of procedure for town board meetings. The rules, by the way, are on the website.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm an aye. Thank you. We have the town's insurance is coming up for renewal. And there's good news and bad news. The good news is that the basic quote for renewal of our insurance overall is only very slightly changed from $36,153 to $39,935. However, that will not include cyber coverage. And coverage for cyber issues has dramatically increased, and in some cases is not even available. We had cyber coverage. We are looking for cyber coverage. I don't want the town to be operating for one day without cyber coverage. But so the quote that you see, and for which I would like to have a motion to approve, is for renewal of the rest of our insurance, which is property, liability, inland marine, automobile, public officials, excess broker fee, etc. I will be coming back to the board with a quote for some cyber coverage, because it is, while we have been making real efforts at the town to make sure that we protect ourselves from a cyber crime, particularly in helping to train everybody in town hall not to click on something that you do not recognize. And if you see something, you have a question, to ask a colleague to look at it together, because that's really where people have gotten in trouble. There's a municipality, I don't know which one, but I know that there's a municipality in Orange County that was pretty much wiped out financially by a cyber issue. So it's something we take, it sounds sort of abstract. It's not abstract when your town is wiped out financially. But with that proviso, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the renewal of our insurance.
So much.
Second.
Want to do a little roll call on this?
Okay. Supervisor Cannon,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morrison,
Aye.
Councilman Pedali,
Aye.
Councilwoman Winkler.
Okay, I have. We're getting there. I mentioned that we've revised the committees for the town board to reflect the departure of Rick Cooper and the addition of Ned Winkler to the town board. And so the committees are proposed as follows. The Budget Committee, Chris Kennan, Lana Morrison. Building, Grounds and Facilities, Meg Winkler and John Midwood. Cemetery, Ralph Fideli and John Midwood. Communications, which is a new committee, which we're going to set up, is Meg Winkler and John Midwood. Emergency Services, John Midwood and Chris Kennan. Hazard Mitigation, Chris Kennan, Ralph Fideli, Bob Stevens and Ken McLaughlin. Highway, Chris Kennan and Ralph Fideli. Personnel, Ralph Fideli and Lana Morrison. Recreation, John Midwood and Lana Morrison. Wastewater District Committee, Lana Morrison and Chris Kennan. And the Zoning Review Committee, Chris Kennan, Lana Morrison and Meg Winkler. With that, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the committees.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm an aye on that as well. Thank you. With that, we come to public comment period. We welcome any members of the public who would like to comment. Yes, Scott.
Good evening. My name is Scott Culbrook. I am a 40-year resident of the area and a 30-year resident of town. And I came here because some information was forwarded to me that I thought that the town could use in addressing the affordable housing and workforce housing needs that we have. It's called the Real Estate Transfer Fund. And it's a tool that has been used fairly extensively in Massachusetts to help fund affordable housing and low-income housing and property purchasing. So I just printed these out and I thought I would appreciate it if the town board could recognize it or take a look at it and maybe review it, consider adopting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll look forward to looking into it.
Good, thank you.
I have a comment. Anybody else?
Yes, Sam.
I'm looking at the schedule that we have here that the toolkit recommends and some of the recommendations, and congratulations for putting this together. I think it's very helpful. But the page 9, it says tools for local governments to enhance affordable housing opportunities. And it lists a number of things such as improving the zoning and land use regulations, tax funding and other incentives, planning for density, public land policies and partnerships, and education and communication. And I'm hearing about the zoning review committee maybe finishing in midsummer for the Boulevard District. I'm hearing from Albany and the governor that there's a lot of money coming down for housing. And I think we're just flat-footed, not there yet. We haven't even, the comprehensive plan calls for a housing committee. Between the village and the town, and that hasn't been created as far as I know. So I'm just, I'm getting too old here. I'm not going to see this happen if it goes so slowly. And I think we really have to invent a new way of putting together the zoning portion, the housing portion of zoning before, September or next September, which however long. I appreciate how difficult it is, but I think we need to take some larger steps. Perhaps a consultant, somebody who is very familiar with zoning, we in our zoning working group are not very familiar with zoning. And I know that the ZRC is learning more. But I think that we have to accelerate that and probably by using somebody else. That is very familiar. I don't believe this is rocket science. And having looked at the new zoning revisions for Armenia. They did that quite quickly, and that's because those people who did it were very familiar with it. All they have to do is pick 6 examples from zoning around here. And say, well, how do you, does this make sense? Okay, or not? So I do think that it doesn't have to be as lengthy a process. And I think that I'm certainly, as I think I mentioned the last time I was here, that our group can help, but we need help if we can get a group together, because right now it's not. It was only Meg, me, Karen, and Tom putting the expo together. And I'm thanking everybody for coming to expo and the people who did that, but we're working along it without enough bench, without enough, if the local government intends to enhance affordable housing, I think that time is well spent, and it's already late.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else have a comment at this point? Okay, now moving on to the financials. I have a budget adjustment, number 1 of 2023, an A fund. An expense increase of $860, less a revenue increase of $860 for a net of 0. And in DB fund, an expense increase of $11,300, less a revenue increase of $11,300. Could I have a motion to approve the budget adjustment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. I have a special abstract dated February 22nd, 2023, totaling $11,399.64, broken down as follows. A fund, $2,326.26. DB fund, $9,073.38. Could I have a motion to accept a special abstract?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. I'm going to pass this along to Ralph for his signature. The date is the 9th. I have an abstract dated March 9th, 2023, totaling $174,792.50, broken down as follows. A fund, $43,647.50. B fund, $100,033.50. DB fund, $23,974.58. Capital projects H1, $6,810.69. TNA to escrow, $70. Payroll TNA, $256.23. Could I have a motion to accept the abstract?
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. There we go, Ralph. The minutes of the meeting, wait a minute, let me back up. The voucher committee for April will be Lana Morrison and John Midwood. The next item is the approval of the minutes from the meeting of February 9th, 2023. The meeting, the minutes have been distributed to the board, and I hope you've all had a chance to review them. I would like to have motion to